Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming on a beautiful fall afternoon in Vancouver. I hope that it'll be very productive for all of you. And so our story on Sonora Metals started about 2012 and started taking shape further in 2014, where we had a project called Chipriona, located next to Agnico Eagle's La India open pit. So we'll talk about that as we go along. The disclaimer, followed by five essential items that are required to make a project successful and a company successful. First is jurisdiction. I'm so pleased that Greg came up with four jurisdictions that he considers to be prime targets for exploration, Mexico being one of them. I fully concur with that. We're in Sonora State, which is in the northwestern part of Mexico. And I consider Sonora to be the prime destination in Mexico for exploration, with 25% of the mining in Mexico takes place in Sonora State. And it's a very mining-friendly jurisdiction. Projects, you need decent projects. We certainly have decent projects, and we'll go over the projects in greater detail today. Cerro Caliche is our most recent one, and we put out results yesterday. And it's funny, you know, the timing couldn't have been better for this show here. We've never had drill targets or drill hole results with the company in the past 4 or 5 years. And yesterday was the day we came out with our first results. So thank you to the organizers of the conference, and it provided us with an opportunity to explore and deal with our shareholders and investors and move the company forward. The other projects, the San Marcial project, we'll discuss it very briefly as we go along. The other aspect that is important is an experienced management team. And as of 2 weeks ago, we acquired a very important person in our team called John Darch as chairman. And John and I go back many, many years. We've worked together in Western Geopower, and we've been very successful in raising capital over the years in Western Geopower, and made the company successful, and it was acquired in 2009. So here we are back again, and our focus is going to be in raising additional capital as we develop Sonora Metals. Then we go to our strategic weapon, a young man that some of you are familiar with, has a track record that is exemplary. He is he's got a track record of discovery that unfortunately our slide was not able to accommodate. They don't make PowerPoint slides long enough to accommodate our geologist in Mexico, based in Hermosillo. His name is Mel, first name is Mel. I can call him Mel Hardrock Herdrick, and because I think it's a very apt description. He was, for 10 years, the head of exploration in Mexico for Phelps Dodge, and 7 years as the head of exploration for Pediment. And he was a catalyst that acquired the projects for Pediment, which eventually led to the takeover of Pediment by Argonaut Gold. And the main projects that Pediment had developed are actually the most strategic targets and the most strategic production vehicles within Argonaut. So I'd like you to stand up, Mel. I wanted to have you up here to actually present with me, but he's become very shy. He'd rather be out there sniffing rocks, and so but stand up so everybody can know who you are. And afterwards in the side room, Mel will be available to go into greater detail with you on the projects, but I will skim over the surface. The other thing is cash. If you don't have cash, you're not going anywhere. And most companies have been struggling over the past 5 to 7 years. We were too. But we were very fortunate to have a strategic project right next to Agnico Eagle's La India mine. And we were able to capitalize on that, sell it to Agnico, load up the treasury, and move forward with the two projects we're discussing today. We have a very strong board of directors with a history of raising capital, and Steve Kenwood, our geologist in Vancouver, has 25 years experience in operating mines and discovery as well. Jorge Diaz is a mining engineer in Mexico. He's worked in developing mining projects all over Mexico. The share structure, 30 million shares, of which the insiders control, well, certainly over 30%. And over the past 3 years, as you can see, there hasn't been a lot of activity in the share price. It has fluctuated generally in the plus or minus 12 to 15 cent range, occasionally touching 20, back down a little bit. The dip you see at near the end there we had an unfortunate death in the directorships, and one of our founders passed away, and the surviving widow decided to sell the entire position, and it affected the market, but it bounced back very, very strongly, and we're in a very strong position today. Location-wise, the 3 properties, like I said, are in northern Sonora state. Chipriona, the one on the southeast part of this clip here, has been sold to Agnico. We secured $4 million and a 1% net smelter return, but it's now fully in the hands of Agnico. They're drilling, they're doing metallurgical testing, and we fully expect that'll go into production at some point in the future. The other 2 projects are near Magdalena de Quino, which is a 3-hour drive south of Tucson, 3-hour drive north of Hermosillo. Mel and his office is located in Hermosillo, and we typically fly into Hermosillo to visit the project, but we can also easily fly into Tucson. I mentioned on the left-hand side there some of the merits of dealing in Sonora State, and so I think many of you are quite familiar with the benefits of operating in Mexico. Location-wise, we are surrounded by producing mines. If you go to the west, we're right next to the Cerro Prieto mine, operated by Gold Group. To the north is Agnico Eagle's recently acquired Santa Gertrudis, which I believe they paid $84 million for. And to the east of us is the Mercedes mine, operated by Premier Gold. So like I said, we are surrounded by gold producers, and there are many, many small workings that have been operated over the years in our general area, that some of it of which is in our property. And this slide here shows you 7 old mines that were operating on our property back in the last century. Each of these mines had high-grade zones of, none of the old miners back in those days would touch anything under 10 grams. So you can well imagine that there's a significant amount of gold still sitting in the ground waiting for us to develop. The concession, this particular slide here just generalizes the concession. It's a hill country. The mines were scattered all over the hills, but some of the milestones we achieved in 2018 were acquiring this project. Amazingly, it's only been 9 months since we acquired the first part of the concession, and so during that period of time, we acquired five agreements with the concession holders and accumulated 1,400 hectares. We've been able to do surface sampling that applied 2,000 samples that we've assayed so far, and we'll show you a slide on that. The drilling permit was acquired about 2 months ago, and we started drilling a 10,000-meter drill program just over a month ago, and now we have the results today, or yesterday. Another slide of the location. I don't have to dwell on this too much. The geology, Mel will talk about that in the conversation afterwards. And socially, we're in a community that is highly mining dependent. Several hundred years of mining expertise has been developed in this region. Magdalena de Quino is a main center for mining in the area outside of Hermosillo. And we have local expertise that we draw upon as we explore the property. All of our staff in Mexico are Mexican citizens, except for Mel, who's American, but has been living in Mexico for 30 years. I'll snapshot this one here. That's Mel with the Cerro Caliche hill behind us. The concession has over 20 kilometers of roads on it already built. So it's 3-axis roads into the property. We don't have any issues at all with access to any part of the property as far as drilling is concerned. Summarize the grades. We're typically looking at half a gram or better with our surface sampling. We've done 2,000 samples, but more importantly, the historic aspect of the project is what makes it truly a great project to be involved with. Greg has briefly touched on the merits of acquiring properties in which people have spent a lot of money. And over the years, there's been 3 operators that have spent many, many millions of dollars in this project here. Over 4,000 soil samples or rock samples have been taken. We have 115 drill holes that have explored the property extensively. And for one reason or another, mainly low price of gold at the time or markets effectively disappearing below their feet and not being able to finance additional development, these companies have relinquished their interest in the project to our benefit. So we've acquired 1,400 hectares. We've acquired all the data from these earlier drilling programs and the sampling programs. So when we go in there with our 10,000 meter drilling program, we're not wildcatting. We're not going in blind. We have so much technical data on the earlier programs that we can effectively go in there, verify the earlier data, and turn that into a 43-101 report in due course. And we can start expanding the resource as well. And as you can see at this point, the initial phase of drilling that we've accomplished is in an area of about 2 kilometers square. But we've got 14 square kilometers of land to explore. And everywhere you look, you see the red dots on the map here. These are all sampling areas that have indicated grades of over 0.4 grams. So we have a lot of work to do in order to fully define the potential for the resource in this property here. But I would say over the next 2 to 3 months, with a 10,000 meter program accomplished, we should be able to start to define a resource. I can't tell you today exactly what that resource is going to be because it's still a work in progress. But I would say that by March, we can start to actually define a resource. And our focus is on developing a large-scale, open pit, heap leachable deposit that is in oxides, and we have an area next door to us in which we can actually apply the heap leach, build a heap leach pad. I know Greg is wanting me to move along here. Here are some of the sections that we came with in the recent drilling, and we'll explain that in greater detail. But certainly the mineralization is going down to potentially 200 meters in some instances. And the drilling program, it's ongoing. The next drilling we're going to be doing in our other property is San Marcial, 30 kilometers to the west. We'll talk about that in the next forum next year. Chipriona property sold to Agnico. And so in closing, the focus for 2019 is very simple. Develop a resource at Cerro Caliche. With that, of course, we need to do some additional drilling, so we'll strengthen the balance sheet at that time. And then we start the drilling at San Marcial to establish a resource there as well. And that is it for us. We certainly appreciate you taking the time and look forward to any questions you may have in the neighboring room. Thank you very much. Thanks, Greg.